the person who started Replit actually used to watch my videos way back when. So this brilliant guy and his team, people just like you. And now they have a $1 billion company that's probably going to be worth more and more and more. But it's an amazing system. You might want to check out this AutoGPT, which is really cool. Want it to be a billionaire in the next few years, which some of the people that watched my videos actually became billionaires. It's crazy. I'm happy I could motivate. Obviously not everyone's going to get there, but I know at least 5 billionaires who started their journey to success at the same time. They watched, they were watching my videos at the time, which were coming out in 2015 and 16. If you wanted to become a billionaire, and again, you got to think seriously about why you'd want to do that, because it's not normal. Usually people who just want to be really wealthy or have serious psychological issues, and I'm not exempting myself from that. You should want to be happy. That's my advice. But assuming you want to make a lot of money, if it were me just dropped from planet Mars today and on Earth, and you had to take advice, and I'm not saying my advice is better than anybody else's, by the way, I would say I would start by going on Replit, learning to program, getting into AI, and the highest probability chance of you becoming a billionaire is probably somewhere in that path over the next, say, 5 years.
So I'm sure you've been tested throughout your life. What's your IQ?
I got tested when I was in prison. That's the only real IQ test I've ever taken with a real neuropsychiatrist. I got a 138.
Okay, not bad.
It's
Okay.
yeah, but you know, being tested in prison was was a tricky endeavor.
All right. So honestly, the trauma might have even lowered your score, so you actually might be closer to 140 something.
Who knows? Yeah.
I think as soon as Google fires Sundar, the stock will go up. And they need, you know, when you have these like issues with corporate decisions, it's not always the CEO's fault. It's not always the CEO's fault at all. But sometimes heads just have to roll. It just is what it is. The bag was fumbled. Who's the boss? Oh, he's fired. Who's the boss? She's fired. It's over. That's how it works. It's not about, oh, you know, did they do a good job? Is it really their fault? It's over. We got a new person. New person's gonna take over. That's really how it works. Sorry. You gotta put the blame on the CEO. It's not putting the blame on somebody else. First move, developers are in charge. They can launch new AI products as they see fit. All product managers are fired. Every developer's like this, yeah. Let's order some pizzas. We're staying till midnight. Let's go. Instead of putting your resume out there. Bring back the old Google. Well, what are they waiting for? You tell me this company invented AI, right? They got freaking half the people who published the original AI papers, people like Hinton, working there. And I go here and it's the same old Google. Hey, you got to get that thing out. Take it for a spin every now and then. You got the nicest cars. You got to imagine having a garage. You got the Lambo. You got the Bentley. You got the Royce. Aston Martin, Ferrari, LaFerrari. You got all that. You even got a couple of Maybachs and, you know, Bugatti, and water. And you say, you know what? Let's try. Let's just take the car all out. You got to take it out every now and then, man. Come on. Where'd you get all them cars? Am I happy? Yes, I'm very happy. If you think being a billionaire is happy and you close your eyes and visualize it and you think about yachts and things like that, you're going to be in for, unfortunately, a rude awakening. Now, you still might become a billionaire, but it's going to be maybe not as happy as you would otherwise. Happiness is lame. Well, you can be happy by being a rebel, which that's kind of what I've done a little bit. You know, if optimizing for the right amount of money is your goal or my goal, I don't think it should be anybody's goal. But, you know, that's a hard thing to make one happy. To me, happiness is reading a book. To me, happiness is being with your friends and loved ones and family and laughing so hard it hurts. You know, that's what happiness is. Happiness is chasing my cat and vice versa. You know, the simple things. Work can be very thrilling and very satisfying. But work just to work and just to make money is not. You hope that those things will coincide or something, but very few business people, geniuses. Very few. Elon Musk is definitely not it. Being good at business and being really smart are two like wildly different things. And they almost never overlap. Someone like Jim Simons, you know, maybe. Very, very bright, no doubt about it. Top 100, maybe. There's a lot of people in the world. It's hard to be that smart. You're really talking about a transcendent level of genius. That's how do you frame that and quantify it and make that decision is not easy either, because you're really talking about people. Like, there could be a farmer in New Zealand that's the smartest person in the world, right? We just don't know. I mean, the only thing we have to go on is people's writings and people, their output, which is largely a lot of times in academics. And then you also have people who are brilliant, but they've chosen to apply their life in music or in some other field. Unlikely to be someone like Kanye, but certainly could be. So what dimension of intelligence? Often we have to prove our intelligence like Scott Aaronson does in quantum complexity theory. Complexity is pretty complicated. Wait, I shouldn't say that. Complexity is already difficult to understand. Complexity is a branch of mathematics that most people cannot understand. I think that's all self-definitional. What makes somebody smart? And are there any women I'd consider geniuses? Definitely there are many women that are geniuses. Women's academic output and their, for whatever reason, society and civilization kind of suppress some of that. Who's like the most impressive woman thinker? Let me think. Oh, God. I'm a big Microsoft fan in terms of the company. The stock, I don't confuse those two things. You can love a company and hate a stock, so keep that in mind. In terms of Microsoft, I'm just a fan of the company's success, their management team, their management style. They've done amazing. It's just, you got to give credit where credit's due. PE versus hedge funds, they're two very different things, obviously. Private equity, you're buying the whole company and holding on to it. Hedge funds, you're buying parts of companies. There's some overlap in method, obviously. So it's a really messed up system. It'd be nice if there was another solution. I know people have talked about crypto. Crypto is not really robust enough to account for the entire financial system. Bitcoin barely works, to be frank. There could be another system that develops over time. I sure hope so. But I would love to see, there be some solution that works. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that JP Morgan, at the same token, does help the world go round. If you're a big bank like JP Morgan, you are lending money to big corporations like Apple and Pfizer and Merck. And those companies are doing good things. So you need a bank like that who can help you do a $20 billion financing. Silicon Valley Bank isn't worth $20 billion themselves, let alone could they lend you $20 billion. So it's pretty tricky to sort of live or see a world without banks because big corporate activities would cease to exist. There has to be some counterparty that can make a huge loan. Now, at the same token, some of the big non-bank financial institutions like like Berkshire Hathaway can make you a private loan. I've actually gone to hedge funds for private loans sometimes. They're much more expensive, but you can go to BlackRock for a private loan. And these are sometimes called shadow banks for this reason. They're not banks, but hey, they can make you a loan. Anybody can make you a loan. It's just a matter of who's doing it and where's their money coming from. So I do think that we're going to see an increase, quite frankly, of shadow banking due to some of the changes that are happening. The problem with like, say, Jim Cramer, right, is, and I love Cramer. I used to work for him. I think he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. The problem is that if you make predictions for a living, your predictions will tend to be around 50-50 accurate. And people will focus on the wrong predictions a lot more than the right ones. So it's really, really hard to actually make predictions for a living. And if you do it the right way, you got to give your conviction, you got to give your exact estimates, all kinds of stuff like that. There's a lot of nuance, standard deviation, things like that. The real innovation, the real money is sort of made after the bubble, which is kind of funny. But it doesn't mean you can't be a bubble beneficiary. You look at Mark Cuban, Netscape, there usually is some FOMO on the corporate side too, where the corporations kind of go a little crazy trying to buy their way into the next paradigm shift. So I hope that, we see this happen. So as I was saying a second ago, unlike the internet, which I know it sounds a little funny to say, that the internet didn't have an immediate functional use case or functionality at the inception. But I think if you go back in time, you wouldn't disagree with me. There was still a lot of people asking, what is this good for? And there were a lot of companies like Webvan and Cosmos and The Globe, and even one that my boss was running at the time called TheStreet.com.
there was a lot of questions about, well, do we really need this? And now, of course, we can't imagine our lives without the internet. But at the time, there wasn't YouTube. Google was still fairly nascent. There was no social media. So most of the things we use the internet for today didn't exist at the start of the bubble. So unlike that, we have OpenAI, which has this immediately functional product. I think that, crypto also sort of suffered from this problem of cool technology, but where are we going with this? And, big potential use case, changing the scope of money and things like that, but no real great utility out of the box. You still have to sort of suspend disbelief that you have a store of value, that's not ephemeral. Ask yourself if this is really right for you, given, let's say, you're a corporation or something like that. There's no immediate impetus to say, if you're Johnson & Johnson or Procter & Gamble or Walmart, to say, okay, let me change a bunch of our treasury to Bitcoin. It doesn't really make sense right away, right? There's no, not just use case, but there's no imperative. There's no drive to sort of say, let me change how I'm going to do things. And it very well may be that crypto in 20 years or 5 years or 10 years, who knows, becomes like a very standard thing for corporations and people to have, 20 or 30% of their wealth in. But as of now, there was no event that forced you to use it. Today, you're sort of forced to use it. I'm hoping and I think that AI will have a bubble phenomenon as big or bigger than the internet, which is saying a lot because the internet bubble was very, very unprecedented. And I think it took Microsoft more than 10 years to recover its internet bubble price. Most stocks never recovered. The median stock never recovered its internet bubble price of 2000. So to a lot of people, this was a defining moment. To most people today, we don't look back on it as that important. But I think that, if you look at some of the wealth that was created back then, a lot of it was, we look back and call it undeserved. But, if you think about the market from the Buffett perspective of Mr. Market, shouting prices at you every day, if you get a price that's really wild, you're sort of tempted to sell. So, one of the big things about bubbles that we've seen in the past is you want to avoid the bubble popping, but you also kind of want to ride the bubble, expanding. And I do feel like there's a seismic shift.
I have a friend who is a big shot on Wall Street, and he would try to bet on the quarterly earnings just based on the tone of the voice of the person who worked there. And they're not allowed to tell you how the earnings call goes, but you're allowed to talk about the weather or something like that. So this person would talk about the weather, and they'd be like, it's always raining in Seattle. The way they said the weather was really good, how beautiful it was, they wouldn't say that if the numbers weren't good. And I'm like, how do you know that? And they're like, well, last year, checking my notes, the weather was really good, and they said, oh, everything's okay, and the quarter was really bad. So this must be a really good quarter. So these are the games people play. So don't step into the ring with top Wall Streeters if you can't get the same information and same tools that they have. Yeah, this guy made a lot of money. He was one of the best traders in Wall Street history. That's not the only way he made money, though. He also understood, to me, the tone of the market is really important. This is like trading voodoo, so remember, it's not perfect. But the tone of the market for Microsoft to me suggests there's incremental. The net trader is a net seller, or the marginal trader is a net seller. So I think that the valuation is also relevant. This is going to be, even with AI and Bing, I don't think they could do enough here to have a really good quarter, but I could be wrong. But if I had to bet, which I don't have to, I'd be short. Look at these computers. Look at these computers. Look at this Quotron right there. Quotron. The realist. You got the switchboard. You see that? That's the switchboard right there. Every brokerage firm is dialing in. Doop, First Boston, what's up? Bloop, DLJ. Bloop, Drexel Burnham. And you see what Milken did. He's got the 8:30 reservation at Dorja. Of course, he's going to have the scallops. He was a new kind of banker in the 80s. He didn't have the suspenders. I was rocking the suspenders. Yeah, I was 6 years old, so what? You guys ever heard of the Boom Boom Room? So what he would do is, the client would be like, listen, Michael, I need you to buy $100 million of bonds. So he'd be like, all right, hold up. Yeah, Sally, buy $5 million of bonds in my personal account. Okay, hold on. $100 million, right?
Yeah, I got you. Do you need that done right away? No, I can wait a little bit? Okay, great. Okay, cool. Yes, Allie, sell all those bonds. Thank you. Bye. The rules weren't that clear back then. But homie did a little time. No big deal. 2 years. He got the pardon. He got the presidential pardon. He's cool. Then there was the boom boom room. This was not great. Let's see. So they actually made an actual boom boom room, but this was at Salomon Brothers. And so basically, yeah, I mean you can read it. It wasn't good. Smith Barney, Shearson Amex, less than 5% of Smith Barney's 11,000 brokers are female, and less still are minorities. 440 branch officers, but less than 10 are female. Inappropriate comments, hostile work environment. Okay. But I want to know about the boom boom room. Oh, Jesus Christ, look at this one. For example, on more than one occasion, in an attempt to intimidate Martins, opened the top drawer of his desk and pulled out a gun. At one of Solomon Smith Barney's Christmas parties, Cuneo boasted to the attendees, "We achieved the status as the biggest whorehouse in Garden City." Cuneo left a female broker in tears after commenting to her, "There must be a lot of pressure on you to spread your legs." Oh, that's terrible. After hiring an attractive female as a trainee, Cuneo openly boasted that he had just hired a Playboy bunny. So there was a basement party room, I guess, in their office in Long Island, and that was called the Boom Boom Room. And this lawsuit, basically tore apart quite a bit of the that culture in 80s Wall Street. Cuneo set the tone by constructing a room in the basement of the branch office, which he named the Boom Boom Room. He decorated it in a fraternity house style, including hanging a toilet bowl from the ceiling. Served Bloody Marys to mail brokers who were summoned to the Boom Boom Room over the PA system. There they would joke amongst themselves that females who did not behave would be dealt with in the Boom Boom Room. During her only visit to the Boom Boom Room, he grabbed her and kissed her on the lips. Pretty scary. So yeah, that was what Wall Street sort of looked like in the 80s. I think so one good question is what's going to happen to Silicon Valley people? What happens to Lehman Brothers people, right? Those people lost a ton of money too, and it's not hard to label something as fraud, right? I mean, anytime somebody loses money, somewhere along the way, somebody lied, somebody did something that you could blame, somebody had poor judgment. I think here you did have an actual very deceitful situation, but I'm pretty sure the people at Silicon Valley Bank depositors were also pretty upset that at least for a few days before the Fed stepped in, that they were probably really pretty upset at the CFO and the CEO and board of directors at that company. And imagine there was no FDIC. You'd sit there and say, these people should go to jail. How could they possibly mismanage the bank this way? And that happened to Lehman Brothers, that happened to Bear Stearns. Nobody went to jail from those companies. So if I'm Sam, that's my argument. It's like, I run a financial institution. There's risk. We made mistakes. We didn't try to lose the money. We didn't steal the money. And that's the end of the day. That's what it is. Now, I think there's a lot of arguments against that's not, exactly right. There's a lot of issues with that. But I think that, there's a lot of issues with the bank system in general. I mean, I think it's a very unfair kind of system that has moral hazard, where there's an agency management problem, where depositors' funds are basically used as fodder for gambling. They call them loans, but, they're really leveraged hedge fund positions. And if you work out those positions well, you get big bonuses and lots of cash. And if you don't, well, good luck, depositor. And I think the big delta there is, do you expect that risk? And do you expect any reward? Because if we all thought this was a hedge fund, well, I might as well at least gamble my money in a hedge fund, because I'm going to get 80% of the profits and pay the manager 20%. FTX was a secret hedge fund where he got 100% of the profits, you got 100% of the downside, and you never signed up for that deal. And banks are typically, honestly, the same, except for the FDIC guarantee. Right? If not for the FDIC guarantee, I would say that JP Morgan is just a big hedge fund that you unwittingly participate in fuel when you have an account at Chase. And, what do you think they pay their bankers and traders with? Your money, and if they lose it, well, it's your money they're losing, it's not their money.
Well, becoming a father or parent is supposedly one of the most joyous things you can do.
But what's funny about that is I think there's like this, and this kind of becomes circular logic. There's kind of this, you know, involuntary evolutionary reason why you become. It's something that's so satisfying, right? It's a biological imperative, as Eugene is saying here. It's now we've broken out of that mold to some extent, right? But nature's trick is to unleash this wave of oxytocin or serotonin or whatever that tickles our brain just right when we look at a baby. And look at me when I see this cat, it melts my heart. She's so cute, she's so small, she's so innocent. I want to nurture her and take care of her, and that's the biological imperative. And it's 100 times heavier. Sometimes we call it baby fever amongst my girlfriend or my other friends. When you see a baby, it's, oh, look at this poor little baby. Oh, I want to take good care of it. And that's just something your brain can't stop. If you try the hardest in the world, maybe if you're a sociopath or a psychopath, you can curb it or stop it. But most people, it's in our nature, and you can't stop it. And I think that, I never liked that nature plays those tricks on us. But the funny thing I was going to say is that you can't help but whatever nature's trick is, like somebody's just saying they really like one certain kind of thing, or maybe you really like programming, but whatever nature's trick is playing on you, you really don't have a lot of free will in the matter, right? Some people play chess and they decide to push these pieces of wood around for the rest of their lives, right? These little wooden figurines. And they gain great meaning and great depth from that, right? These little pieces of wood. And they sit and read chess books for hours, studying chess libraries and databases, just thinking about chess. They don't even need a chessboard anymore. You just think about, oh man, what's the 15th move in the French defense Tarrasch opening? And you dwell on that for hours, and you're sitting with this person and say, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking about the knight on g3 and how it's going to mess up my position. And it's like, how could you care so much? But if that person, that's what they care about, that's what they care about. But for most of us, it's simpler things than that. It's just our family and things like that. Most people, as they get older, that's what they're really focused on. Not long Google or OpenAI. I actually think Google's going to be the biggest loser, ironically, in all of this. So anyway, OpenAI is a little bit weird. I have a lot of respect for the company, but a lot of people in the Valley are asking if the LLM game is up, and they kind of have to migrate to apps, which I think is what Karpathy is doing. That's a really long story. If you had to put a gun to my head, buy or sell OpenAI, I'd be buying it. The current valuation, like 30 or 40 billion, definitely a buy. But is it like that means that I'd have to have like liquidity as well. Like, so if I have to buy it for an IPO or like buy and hold it forever, I would not. But like, if you could buy OpenAI in the private markets right now, I would. I like how this guy on Twitch, he goes, bro, how are you not in jail? Well, the way it works, in case you didn't know, is you get a sentence. When the sentence is over, they let you out. They don't let you out based on whether or not 𝗧𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗦𝗦 620 decides whether or not, the prisoner stays in prison. Do they call you up? Do they say, hey, 𝗧𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗦𝗦 620, we got this prisoner here. Yeah, he was sentenced to 7 years, but 7 years expired yesterday. Can we let him out, 𝗧𝗜𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗦𝗧 620? Is that all right with you? Or do we just leave him in? Oh, you want to leave him in? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Anon, Twitch viewer. We're gonna leave him in. All right. Thank you.
So I would like you to correct me if I'm wrong, but at the point that you were getting investigated, you were instructed kind of like by your lawyers to lay low, and you were online because that's how I met you. It was about like 5 years ago. You probably don't know me at all, but I met you on Blab. Do you remember that website?
Of course I remember Blab. Yeah, Blab was great.
So you were on there and you were talking about like stocks, and you gave lessons, and then you also kind of invited people who had AIDS to come speak with you and all of that. And I feel like at that time you made like a lot of friends on there, because you were kind of stuck in your apartment, right? Like you weren't really able to do anything. Are you still in contact with any of those people that you made friends with?
Yeah, of course. We have a Discord, my own Discord, and tons of different. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing one of those people on Tuesday. So like we had meetups and stuff like that. Absolutely, yeah. That's we have a reunion reunions and all kinds of stuff like that. People have gotten, from my Discord and Blab community, have gotten married. People have passed away, sadly. One guy went to prison himself. In fact, several people did. So we have like this.
Did Billy go to prison?
Billy didn't, but Billy's still a good friend, and we built a fun community. And there's a lot of little online communities. This politics one is one too.